fredag 20. september. Velkommen til ny Dagsorden. Med meg har jeg Doron fra Israel, som har vært nede på Gaza-stripen, og han vet hva som har skjedd i Israel nå, hele krigen, og vi skal snakke, det mange vinkler på denne storyen. Doron, welcome to Document.
Thank you.
We have to conduct the interview in English, of course, and the interview will be texted for Norwegian viewers. So, we have talked a little bit beforehand, and I understand that you are we are impressed by IDF because you have shown yourself capable. You know what you are doing, actually. I call you Sparta on the Mediterranean because you are probably the best fighting force in the world.
Yeah.
But just for starters, one can be so good that it becomes a temptation to overstretch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the political and military leadership are aware of this temptation? Because it seems you can penetrate, all Hezbollah information. You have Iran, everything you can read like an open card.
Yeah, yeah. I think for those who know what they're doing in our military, in our intelligence community, and so on, and those who are making decisions on actions and contingencies and whatever needs to be done, to achieve our goals, I think we're aware of our limitations. We're aware of what we're capable of and what we're not capable of, because nobody is impenetrable. Even the Spartans, as you mentioned, at some point they met their breaking point, and I think those men were aware of that. And just like them, we also are aware of that, but we're also willing to lay down our lives, because we also understand the thing that's most paramount for most of us, we're the last line of defense. There's no one else. There's no one else coming instead of you. There's no one else behind you. So just like those Spartans that are standing there on the gateway to their society, keeping at bay the invaders, that's essentially what we in the IDF understand. And I think that's part of our secret, so to speak, is that when we go to war, we know there is no other option. This is it. You're it. And your level of commitment, your level of ability to do things that maybe other warriors might not necessarily be willing to do per se. That motivation of knowing that if you fall, then it's your wife, it's your kids, etc. And October 7th was a good reminder of that what happens if we don't stand on the guard.
Do you know, a Norwegian historian called Titlestad once said that the Vikings fought the same way. When they went to war, they threw in everything they had. It was either victory or total defeat, meaning they would forfeit everything they had, women, children, into slavery. And but your situation is, of course, in this vicinity. But this has to do with the mind of a warrior.
Yes.
We used to have that.
Yeah.
But Western Europe has fallen into, it's hard to put it in the right words, but...
yeah, you've lost the will to win.
Yes.
You've lost the will to win. And I think the difference is, after World War II and after the Holocaust, you hear a slogan that the Jewish people say every year during Holocaust Memorial Day, is that never again. So that statement isn't just a statement. It's not just something that we say. Literally, we understand very importantly that for never again to ever happen, for it never to be again, that Jews will be vulnerable and become prey, led to the slaughter by those who hate us. That means I and my fellow man have to step up to the plate, if you want to or not. Because if you choose to step down when that threat knocks on your door, like it did with the Nazis, then the inevitable end is inevitable. And so your will to fight is a little bit more motivation by understanding your enemies, those who hate you, and the capabilities of those who did horrible things to us in years past. So I think that's part of the difference. You know, we haven't completely lost the will to fight or the will to win, which I think is a very important concept that the West, including Israel, by the way, an example of that was the war in 2006 in Lebanon. We went in, we hit the enemy hard, but we didn't finish the job. Because our political mindset of today is, we don't like this like overpower, complete destruction of your enemy. It doesn't look good on the media, doesn't look good on United Nations and the Criminal Court of Justice in The Hague or whatever. Yeah. Instead of recognizing, well, it's our civilization versus these demons who want to destroy us. So you got to pick, and the decision sometimes is meaning you have to make choices that are very harsh towards your enemy.
And 7th of October was such a game changer, and it moved the goalposts.
Yeah.
So there was never any going back for Israel.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was the turning point.
Yeah.
So the difference I can tell you through 20 plus years of combat and being in every war that we have had since 2003, that the difference between every war that I've been involved in, this one is different because we have finally regained the will to win, so to speak, and understanding that there is no turning back. And it's a good point that you made there. That's exactly it. It is a different attitude. And I hope that we don't lose that, as this is also the longest war in time span that we've ever been in either. So that's also another factor that it, we're kind of dragging out the momentum and the initiative. And we do need to end this, both for the Palestinians and for us.
But how? Because now it seems like you are on the road to finishing the job, meaning also finishing Hezbollah. Yeah. Which is quite a big job.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of things could happen.
Exactly. So we're not finished yet.
Yeah.
I think what most of your viewers are probably not aware of, on October 7th, we had a multi-front attack. So Gaza, West Bank, Judea, Samaria, and the northern border of Israel with Lebanon. Now heating up with Syria. They're putting forces in attack mode. And at the same time, we're also being attacked by the Houthis in Yemen. And then you also have airstrikes and attacks that we had a massive, in one night, air assault from Iran. So there's nothing like this in the history of our wars. And the amount of complexities, if you will, and of course the most complex battlefield has been for now in Gaza, but the next front, if you will, is the north, is Hezbollah, and we are well aware of the fact that they're a different ballgame. They are trained warriors. They're not like Hamas, who are basically like mafia thugs. They're not as highly capable and trained and well-rounded of a warfighter as the Hezbollah terrorists. So both of them are terrorist groups, but Hezbollah is more of an organized military and more disciplined, better training, and so on. So we're aware of that. But like I said, we're willing to push as far as we need to restore peace and security for our people.
But I reflected on that Israel is a meritocracy. You prioritize qualifications over quantity.
Yeah.
Whereas Hezbollah and the Muslim societies prioritize quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And I mean, I empathize with all people who are killed also in Lebanon, but I mean, it's their leaders and ideology who are bringing this on themselves.
Yeah.
And they have delusions of religious grandeur.
Yeah.
They think they can bring down. I mean, how many people have to die in the Middle East before leaders say enough is enough?
It's a good question. Unfortunately, they're fueled anti-Semitic hatred towards the Jewish people, and the unwilling to accept that Jews have had an empire, and the only empires in historic record in Israel, the land of Israel, the geography of this particular area where Israel is a state today. So we're the only ones who had kings, rulers, an empire that stretched and it influenced all of the ancient world and is now revived post-1948. We're back in our ancestral homeland, and it is our right for many reasons. Most importantly is San Remo of 1920. The League of Nations decided that Israel should be able to establish its state. That's international law. So what the Criminal Court of Justice is doing today is absolute insanity, absolute stupidity. They're spitting in the face of democracy. They're spitting in the face of international law when they're trying to undermine the democratic state of Israel that both has a historical right recognized by the League of Nations, ancestral homeland of the Jewish people, all because of Islamic pressures from the Muslim world around us, who will not accept the exception to the Middle East, which is a democracy, which is equality for all minorities. In fact, minorities who have been chased for over 1,000 years, the Druze being one of them, for example, for the first time they found peace from their tormentors, from those who hated them, under Israeli statehood and having citizenship and enjoying the rights of the state of Israel as non-Jews. And that is the most of the makeup of Israel is exactly that. It is a multicultural nation from Jews from all over the world, multiracial race, but also a bunch of minorities that are being protected.
Doron, if we don't hear much about Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Jordan, if those Sunni nations really meant business, I mean, you would have had to close down Gaza long ago. But they are complicit. They are with your project, which is to really quench radical Islam. And it's very strange that Western liberal governments do not want to see what the Egyptians and Saudis see. And they are almost on the side of radical Islam.
It's not almost. On the streets of Norway and other countries that I've seen, you have slogans from the river to the sea and the Palestinian flag. First of all, the Palestinian flag is it's a flag of a nation that has not existed and isn't of existence presently, so neither past, present, or future, as far as I know. Especially if the aspirations that they continue to try to aspire to means from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What does that mean? It means that from the Jordan River, which is our border to Jordan, and the Mediterranean Sea, it's all of the land of Israel. Meaning the Judenrein of the Middle East. So how is it that on your streets, if you guys are so righteous, if you're such righteous warriors for righteous causes, justice warriors, so to speak, how is that just to you? That's just? Is it my people are either exterminated, having to leave and up and going? Where are we supposed to go? They say, go back to where you came from. You know where I came from? I was born in the Middle East, in the land of Israel. That's where I come from.
Yeah.
This is my home.
But you see, there is a symmetry between those two versions of history.
Yeah.
Like you said, the land of Israel.
Yes.
That we learn in school.
Yes.
I used to learn about the history of Israel. And as you said, there was a kingdom, there was a covenant, there was a first and second temple.
Yeah.
And now they shout from the river to the sea because they accused Ariel Sharon of wanting Eretz Israel all the way up to Nineveh, you know?
Yeah.
They accused him of being an imperialist.
Right.
And now they are switching, they are flipping the symmetry to in the name of extermination of Jews.
Yes.
And they have no pangs of conscience.
Yes. They don't say it openly, but that's the point, is the fact that most of your public here in Norway and in other European countries where I've seen this, when you're wholesale supporting a slogan that is promoting the terrorist cause, and unknowingly, you're saying that you want the eradication of Jews in the Middle East.
Of course, that's what it means.
But yet, at the same time, you say that you sympathize with the Holocaust and that you hate Nazis and that we detest Nazis. You know, I know, for example, in Sweden, they're very strong against certain political parties and they demonize them because they had Nazi past. Even though today, presently, they have nothing to do with Nazism or those ideas, but because it supports a political narrative of those who want to defeat that political party, then they black label him as this black sheep of, we can't have dialogue with you, you're Nazis. So it's okay to hate Nazis, but then you support a Nazi cause, which was a Judenrein. That is what from the river to the sea literally means. So that's what I'm saying, is the fact is that you guys here do not recognize that. I'll put it like this. Imagine we're the rape victim in a court case, and I sit on a train, and I see these posters and flashes of advertisements saying, Ricky, the rapist, who is now in jail, they're, you know, free Ricky, you know, send donations to free him, you know. And you as the rape victim is sitting there going, why is everyone on the train here supporting this person? He raped me. He did me wrong. And you see public opinion, because it's a public opinion, legitimizing the anti of the victim and the pro of the perpetrator. Hamas murdered thousands of Jews on October 7th and is continuing to, with rockets, with everything, raping, murdering, torturing. We saw the fields where all of these atrocities took place. My unit was on ground zero in the Nova Festival. We saw the evil. We saw the horrors. But what does the world say? Well, we have no proof of this. You know why we don't publicize it on social media, and why we actually made a request for all of social media to take down all the footage and everything that went viral by the terrorists who posted it, by the way, with the phones of the victims. They hacked into their identity and shared live atrocities. We requested, for the sake of the families, the government, that all of this stuff be taken down and not shown. So the only thing that is publicly shown is censored footage, censored material that the public does get to see. And even with that, the world still says and claims, this never happened. You exaggerating. No babies were beheaded. Really? I saw. My friends saw. You're saying I'm a liar? You're saying the Jewish woman who claimed that she was raped, she's a liar? So if she's a Norwegian woman, you believe her. But if she's Jewish, you don't believe her. If she's a Palestinian, you believe her. But if she's Jewish, you don't. Don't you guys see? Don't you see your double standard? Your hypocrisy? I believe the Palestinian who is going through hardship. Because they are.
Yes.
They're going through hell. They're going through war. I've seen it. I know. I am aware. I have empathy for them. But I'm not ignorant of the fact of what the terrorists have done to our people, and that's who we're targeting. We're not coming for the Palestinian civilian who is a bystander. We are targeting the terrorists. And Israel in this war, according to international war experts, have had the lowest civilian casualties, 1.5 to 1 ratio, when according to international standards of war, NATO, you're looking at 1 to 6. Israel's 1.5 to 1. We are way below your standards, and yet we committed genocide. How is that possible? So then what you did in Afghanistan and Iraq, what is that? If what we're doing is a genocide.
I don't think those this arithmetic is part of the conversations in their heads.
Yeah.
But let me tell you that very soon after 7th October, the chief of the news director of our public broadcasting publicly recounted that they had publicized the story about the beheaded babies. You know, because they have this fakta check organization,
fact-checkers,
and they have gone mad with Gaza. And they published a story that doubted the veracity of the stories. And she immediately commented and said, we should not have published those stories. And then I understood something is really going wrong in their heads. You know? And it's hard really to, because there is no one there to question them, you know. What are you talking about? You know, anyone with a historical memory of the Holocaust, I could see it in the Jews' faces. What this was about.
It's digging up very, very deep wounds.
Yes.
And we've been through this scenario before. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's very, very sad. It's horrible. And again, I mean, you can say, whoever's listening, this gentleman is just talking propaganda. You know, he has an American accent. He's probably some American colonialist, etc. I'm just privileged to have American parents, and therefore I can speak American English. And through my living in the U.S. and actually not having street American English, because most of it was Hollywood style, so to speak, not very proper conversational English. But I guarantee you, anyone who knows me, born, raised in the land of Israel, Israeli, not a colonialist, not trying to push any colonialist agenda or whatever, have good relationships with my Arab neighbors, Druze neighbors, Bedouins, Christians, you name it. And it's something that I know is hard for the West that wants to have this view that kind of justifies your colonial past somehow by hating on us. Maybe that makes you somehow not look so guilty and so bad. Take your guilt and quit shoving it at me. We are not you. We don't have a colonialist past, present, or future, God willing, ever. We are an ethnic people who are back in their ethnic homeland. And we are the most diverse, the most open society, and the only democracy that is anywhere in the region that we live in. And we're trying to uphold this democracy. We're trying to promote this democracy. We're trying to fight for this.
But Doron,
but we can't do that if you keep claiming that we're anything but that.
You know that this fight, this war, Israel and the Jews are intertwined with a much bigger battle, which is about the soul of the West.
Yes.
This is the war going on in our civilization. And you don't have control of this narrative.
Right. Correct.
So the 7th of October was a big event that changed the equation in favor of Israel. And the enemies of Israel had to reclaim the ground they had lost.
Yeah.
And this also is an attack on our civilization, our Christian roots and heritage. But there is very few people in Western Europe who can deliver such an argument, because they are deprived of their voices, or they are not welcome here, you know?
Yeah.
And so we are actually looking to Israel for help. This is true. You are fighting a fight, and you don't have any choice.
Yeah. Correct.
And we can look to Israel and say, you know, these are the righteous people. Because I can see in the faces of the soldiers that are being killed.
Yeah.
They are very good people.
I've had the privilege of knowing quite a few of them.
I imagine.
You know, you're making a very good point here. See, the West is a Judeo-Christian foundation in your society. This is what, just look at your flag. You have the cross.
Yes.
What does the cross represent? Wokeism? Progressivism? Socialism? Marxism? No. It represents your Christian roots. In your fight as Protestants to fight and to protest and get away from the Catholic control that you had in Europe. So you fought your religious battles to get away from religious control and to be free thinking, right? Open thinking for your faith and say, I don't want to be under this, that, or the other. We want to be free. That's what this cross in your flags represent. And then when society says, you know, this is oppressive, this is wrong, this is bad, and then you start promoting what has already failed. Marxism, socialism, communism in your universities and in your way that you're communicating, and silencing anyone who is old school traditionalist, hanging on to that old school religion, old school whatever. It's like, well, you know what? Without Christianity, even in its ugliest forms throughout history, you don't have law and order.
That's right.
You don't know what's right and wrong. Your whole legal system is based off of this biblical view, and that comes from the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And I think it's very hard for people who are smart enough to recognize that, to accept that and swallow that. They are jealous of the Jewish people. They're jealous of our success. They're jealous of our rebound from the horrors of the Holocaust and able to build such a successful, small superpower in the Middle East. Such a small nation, small people. And somehow I think it bothers you. And instead of recognizing, it's like, so what are you doing? It's like this weird psychological crazy thing of, so then we reject anything that has to do with them, including your Christian roots. Because they're smart enough to know that our Christian roots come from the Jewish people. So you're right, it's intertwined, and that is what's under attack, not your democracy, not your right as a woman in society. These aren't the big issues, or you know, your gender or what have you. The big problem and the big question is, are you going to erase your Christian foundations, or in the United States, are you going to erase the Declaration of Independence and everything that is within those founding fathers and the founding principles of what this new nation is going to be? Also, another movement to fight for religious freedoms and human rights freedoms, and saying, no, we don't like this, because today we're smarter, today we're better. Well, you know that the founding fathers in the United States, they spoke multiple languages. They could read the Hebrew scriptures in Hebrew, in Latin. These were highly educated, highly capable individuals, and they used the Bible as the foundation for all of these rules, laws, and to say that we don't like this, but we like this, we don't. People, you need to stop that. You build on the shoulders, this is Jewish wisdom, you build on the shoulders of our founding fathers. And for us, it starts with Abraham. And that is our heritage. And that's something that we cherish, and that's something we're going to hang on to. And if the West wants to divorce itself from its heritage that you've inherited via the Jewish people, that's going to be your downfall.
Sure. I have to broach the subject of radical Islam because I have the sense that Israel has something to learn Western Europe in how to deal with Muslims.
Yeah.
Because in Jerusalem, you hear the minaret and the call to prayer, but you know that this is a presence, you have to control it, and the Muslims know also that they are within certain bounds.
Correct.
But here in Europe, there are no bounds.
Yeah.
They are in an open space, and they can expand. And they do, and they build mega mosques like in Metz in Germany now.
Yeah.
They are even subsidized here also in Norway. They are per head, they are getting some 350 million crowns per year. And it's a spirit of submission. Submission.
Yeah.
And the left are in cahoots with Islamists.
Right. Yeah.
This is the truth. And you know it very well from your country that the danger this poses to our sovereignty and our security.
100%. In Israel, we keep a balance for religious extremists, period. So it's not just Muslims in Israel that we try to keep checks and balances, so to speak, to make sure that, listen, you have your freedoms, you have your rights, but it isn't at the expense of the others that have to share this space. So Jerusalem is a beautiful example of that. Jerusalem has law and order in a city that is one of the most diverse cities in the world. If you go to the old city, for example, that's the very kind of heart of this diversity. You have the Christian quarter, the Muslim Arab quarter, the Jewish quarter, and the Armenian quarter. These quarters are of four completely diversely different groups, totally. The only thing that is in common is the Christian quarter with the Armenian quarter, because both of them happen to have Christian background. That's the only commonality from those two. But those two quarters, if you will, they don't necessarily, see each other as same. They see themselves as having different Christian backgrounds. So they're different, right? They get along. You can cross and walk through either side of these areas. You can see that there's freedom of religion, expression. Their rights are preserved and protected by the state of Israel. And the same is for the rest of Jerusalem. You see Muslims in full hijabs, walking the streets of Jerusalem or anywhere in Israel. But I'm just saying Jerusalem in specific, you have 30% of the city is Arab, Muslim Arab. So you see more of them in Jerusalem, and you can just basically see the obvious, which is this is a free city, equality for all, but it's not one is louder than the other. The Christians get to be the most provocative, the most vocal in the old city, and drown out, the Jewish synagogues in the Jewish quarter or the Muslim mosques in the Christian quarter, etc. Right? There's a balance. There's a quiet. There's a respect of you can worship, but keep it civil. Right? No rioting, no provocation, and it's under Israel that we preserve that.
But you sit with the levers of power. The police, the army, intelligence.
Yeah.
Whereas in Western Europe, what is the situation?
Yeah.
They have a program for allocating a certain seats to Muslims in all walks of life. Not just political representation, but also in police, in judiciary.
Yeah.
All walks of life. And they will, of course, exercise their influence accordingly, according to Sharia.
Correct.
So, and when it comes to press freedom, this is a taboo subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are sort of locked in, and our space is becoming smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's not acceptable. You shouldn't give up your right, your freedoms, for the sake of the other. The Muslims in Europe need to remember they're guests here. They are refugees from a conflict or a country or what have you. Then be grateful and thankful for what you're getting here in Europe, and integrate and contribute to this new society. And if you haven't created a program that encourages that for your immigrants, no matter where they come from, in essence, that's your problem, isn't it? You're the ones who didn't give them that incentive. If you just gave everything freely to anyone who came here without any contribution to the system, to the state, to, because it's a social system, I understand, right? To a certain degree. So you have to pay into that system from your taxes, and then you can also benefit from them. Well, how are you supposed to benefit if you didn't put anything into the pot, so to speak, the collective pot? So in a way, however you've welcomed these foreigners, the way I understand it is you just kind of did it without really recognizing, well, there has to be a certain standard. There has to be a certain give back to the system. And when you don't incentivize that, of course, I don't blame them for just taking advantage of the system. I would do the same if I were them.
And the Norwegians who are in position, they have a resentment against you for opposing this policy.
Right.
And this is when it becomes really absurd. Yeah. I don't know if you saw the documentary about Israeli TV producers who came to Malmö to cover the Grand Prix.
Al-Islam with Tzvi Chazkeli. Yeah.
This was really amazing.
Yeah.
They thought they had come to Jenin.
Right.
Because it looks exactly like the Middle East.
Correct. Yeah, that is one of the best documentaries that have been done, and unfortunately it was done in Hebrew.
Yeah.
And I think a documentary like that needs to be done in the English language, and of course translated, because a lot of the West could learn a lot from what was exposed through that documentary. Something that we can do that you can't. We know how to
exactly.
infiltrate into the Islamic world with our undercover agents, which is what this reporter did, who happened to have a past in the military in one of our elite undercover units, that basically we dress like, act like our neighbors, and we're able to do it very efficiently with our mistaravim. Something you're not capable of doing, unfortunately, because again, your European mindset and mannerisms and so on, it won't really allow you. You have to basically grow up in that. And Tzvi Chazkeli grew up in a Middle Eastern or Arab background family. Like a lot of our mistaravim typically come from the Middle Eastern bloc of Jews, which I know a lot of your Western colonial Israeli mindset thinks that's impossible. Well, we're just 60% of the state of Israel are from the Middle East, Arab Jews, to be technical, if you will. Moroccan, Iraqi, Syrian, Egyptian, the list goes on. Yemenite. So we're able to do that, in other words, right? We're able to speak the language and look ethnically as our fellow neighboring fellows. You're not able to do that, and you could learn a lot from cooperation.
And this is why this animosity towards Israel is really incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Because we should beleaguer you and ask you, please teach us how to, sway the Arabs and the Muslims.
Yes.
I find it a bit frightening, actually, because people understand that it's a matter of human communication.
Yes. Yes.
And we are just left with moral posturing.
Right.
Against Israel.
Against what is moral.
Yes.
So I know for sure Israel is one of the most moral countries in the world. I've had relationships with military experts, special forces community, United States, Europe. And when I tell them how we operate in combat zones, they look at me like I'm stupid and say, we would never do that. And I say, why? Because that's too high of a risk for our operatives. And I tell them, I say, well, that's our code of conduct. It's called Ruach Tzal. And that's something that should be advertised on your discussions about Israel and our military. If you don't know the spirit of the IDF, to translate directly, it's the 10 commandments of the IDF. So every soldier gets a pamphlet that says, you know, A, B, C, 10 principles that are the foundational principles of our military, and they're founded on our Torah, on our Hebrew scriptures. And so this is the foundation of why I say that our military is on a moral level, on one of the highest moral levels in the world. And there's a lot to be learned from that morality and from the way we conduct our battles, because we also prove it on the battlefield, like I pointed out. Our casualty to combatant ratio is the lowest on any scale of warfare that has ever been done in the world in modern day war against terrorism. Yet our battlefield is way more complex in this current war that we've had since October 7th in Gaza, because the complexities are way more. We have, in a small space of 42 kilometers long, which is the Gaza Strip, Israel is 420 kilometers long, Gaza Strip 442. So the Gaza Strip is a tenth of the length of Israel, and it has over 640 kilometers of underground tunnel systems all throughout the Gaza Strip. This is what I'm up against with my men as we're in Gaza, as we're trying to fight the terrorists, and do it in a moral way. And yet our how to say, the threat of hurting civilians is way higher because our enemy uses their civilians as human shields, unlike the other terrorists around the world who actually care about their civilian population and won't necessarily bring the war fighting into their area. The Hamas guys, they target the civilians. They bring the war into those protected areas of the battle space, including, like I said, all the complexities of the underground tunnels and drone attacks, etc. There's nothing like this in the history of warfare, yet our ratio is a fifth of your ratio. And when I say your, I mean European/United States, SAS, Canada, Special Forces, everybody who's ever fought in modern warfare. We beat your standard, basically. And I'm not trying to gloat. I'm not saying we're better. All I'm saying is what keeps us grounded is these principles, and apparently it's working in a positive way. And I think that is something we could gladly share with the rest of the war fighters in the West who are going to be up against us one day or other. And so either you can learn, and hopefully for your sakes, not have to learn this on your own flesh, so to speak, and through blood, sweat, and tears. You can learn from others, just like we've done throughout the history of our warfare of learning from others as well. We didn't create the wheel, so to speak. We learned from you, and I think it should be a two-way road.
Yeah. But do you think that Western military, on the quiet, are learning from Israelis?
Yes, I know that they are. Because I have good relationships, like I said, with different war fighters. And the majority of, especially the Special Forces community, it seems, are typically the ones who are kind of smelling the hypocrisy and lies that are thrown at Israel. And they are more than happy, because it's also, like I said, it's for their own survival. It's for their own success and what they have to face. So they're smart enough to know it's worth listening and watching and learning from these guys. Not because we're better in our tactics or what have you, but there are aspects they know they can learn from us, and they're humble enough to do it. Just like we do the same from watching them. And we have this exchange amongst us. But again, there's always politics and politicians that try to get
intervened
to make a wedge in between those relationships. But on the ground, it's a different story, for sure.
Yeah. I remember a scene from, this was the film about the Lebanon adventure. The film is seen from inside a tank.
Oh, yeah. That's a cartoon?
No, it's a movie.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay.
Is it called Babylon? I'm not sure. The director was here in Oslo and I interviewed him. It's a very nice guy. And there is a scene there where Fedayen is aiming and has taken a hostage, a woman, aiming an RPG against the Israeli soldier. And he has like 1/10 of a second in order to make up his mind. Am I going to kill them or die?
Right.
This is war.
Correct. It's not black and white decisions that you need to make within 1/10 of a second. You're right. It is very complex, but that's why we train. We train as hard as we can on every one of those kind of scenarios so that when we do face these very hard decisions that need to be made, like the film that was made about the lone survivor, about Luttrell, a Navy SEAL who was found himself in an ambush, him and his team, and in the scene of what they depict, at least in the Hollywood film, is that there was a young boy who discovered their hideout while they were gathering intelligence from a very high level terrorist that they were locating in Afghanistan. And so, of course, the moral question was, do we tie him up? Do we don't? Do we let him go? Do we don't? Etc. And they kind of play this out in the film, this moral question. Yeah. And so that's a small example for people that, if you want to see a film and get an idea, that's exactly the kind of things we're up against. There's always dilemmas. It's not cut and dry. It's not easy. War is hell. War is miserable. War sucks. Nobody on this planet deserves to go through hell of war. But the question is, are you able to make those right decisions in the heat of the moment? And the only thing that's going to help you to do that is the right training and the right moral compass, which I believe the IDF is very good at creating this kind of anchor for most of our operators. And it's not all combat warriors, it's only maybe 10% of the military is in a combat position. But for anyone who's in the Army, there are many decisions that need to be made. And that's, I believe, what kind of keeps us grounded, is those principles of the Ruach Tzal, as they're called in Hebrew.
But then we have the Norwegian power elite are going for the moral high ground. They do not deal with blood and toil and dirt and what war is all about,
Yeah.
And this makes for a very, very strange environment, because we are waging war, yes, in Ukraine, but we don't want to talk about what our weapons are causing there either. So I'm wondering, because the Palestinian cause has become a Norwegian government cause.
Right.
And I was really shocked to see that they have voted for that Israel should evacuate.
Correct, yeah.
This is the most outrageous decision I ever heard about.
Yeah.
Israel has 1 year to evacuate the West Bank, and I assume the Golan Heights and East Jerusalem.
Correct. Well, for sure it's East Jerusalem, because that's within the West Bank. That's the very heart of the West Bank.
Yeah. So it seems to me the Norwegian government they have really let go of themselves, and they have lost control of the stream they are following.
Correct.
And nobody knows where it leads.
So just to paint a picture for you, if Israel were to comply with your lunacy and crazy ideas, because that's what it is, it's lunacy.
Yeah.
What it means is that we give radical Islamists full reign over the holiest sites to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, that they have full control. And that means the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the holy city, Jerusalem, the Western Wall and the Temple Mount for the Jewish people, and equally the Temple Mount for the Islamic world, which is the third holiest site to them. And on top of that, it is also the holiest site to Christianity for those who know their Christian roots and history. This is the birth of the early church, and where the apostles had led Jesus's movement that radicalized the world for the sake of spreading the Christian faith all over the world. This was the nerve. This is where it all began. It says they met daily in the temple, prayed daily in the temple. Where? In Jerusalem. Where? Under the Dome of the Rock, which is the golden dome that you see in all the pictures when you see Jerusalem. That is what you Christians are willing to give up to radical Islamists who are trying to push the agenda? You have to be insane. You have to be insane. You want to visit your holy sites under Islamic oppression in these cities? I don't want to see that. The only time that Jerusalem has been open to all faiths, and it literally is, like I pointed out, you have the diversity of the different quarters in Jerusalem. Not one gets to control all and whatnot. You have the diversity, you have the equality, you have the freedoms, and you can visit. As a Christian, you can visit the Christian quarter, but you can equally visit the Islamic quarter, and you can equally visit the Jewish quarter. And you can embrace history, and you can learn from your past. You let Islam have their way, the Islamists, the extremists. Again, Islam is a big subject. Thank God the majority of Muslims in the world are peaceful people. They are normal people, but it's these Islamists who are at the loud minority who are pushing an agenda. That's the problem. We can get along with our Muslim neighbors, and we do. But it's those extremists who want to create wedges between us and the other. That's your problem. And to let them have their way because it fits a political agenda, you're out of your minds.
So at some point, this should worry Egypt and Saudi Arabia, because they might feel obliged to join in the fight. I mean, this is a gamble that nobody really knows. How it turns out. Correct. And because I suppose the organization of Islamic States are totally in favor. I mean, it's a power play. It's United Nations are becoming more and more anti-Israel.
Yes.
So if Trump wins, things can turn. If Kamala should, God forbid, be president, I mean, all bets are off.
Correct. Because right now you have a weak America. A weak America equals a rocky, miserable Middle East. And I think the writing is on the wall when you've seen what's happened in this past year. And Israel has taken the brunt of the ramifications of that weak leadership that you've had in the United States, without telling people which side is good and which side is bad. I'm just telling you from experiencing living in Jerusalem. During the presidency of Trump, it was peace, it was quiet. The Islamists did not misbehave. And the second the powers changed in Washington, it was open season on mainly Christians. They were the first ones to get a wave of Christian persecution all throughout the Middle East and Africa. And then now Israel is, of course, on the crosshairs of these radical extremists, headed by Iran, fighting for head is also Turkey, which is a NATO partner. In my opinion, they need to be removed from NATO. I know that's a very extreme move to make, but they need to in my opinion, need to be threatened by the rest of the NATO nations of either you change your leadership or you're out. Because right now, Erdogan is a radical Islamist maniac who is running this beautiful country of Turkey to the ground.
Yeah.
These are normal people with very shared values as far as the population of Turkey, but you have a radical extremist maniac who is running his country to the ground, and he's making Israel his main target to promote all the radical terrorist groups financially and ideologically, backed with and partnered with Iran and Qatar, funding all of this, including European money, including US aid, including Israeli funding going towards all of these entities in the name of humanitarian aid, in the name of let's help the poor Palestinians. What we are actually doing is we're aiding and abetting terrorists that are destroying their society, and the Palestinians, the ones who are, the normal people, they get the brunt of all these stupid decisions, and their life is pure misery. And this needs to end. If you really care about the Palestinians, then from the river to the sea, let me and my fellow men do our job to eradicate the terrorists. And Palestine will be free from terrorists.
But, this is the poison that they are dripping into the Norwegian bloodstream.
Yeah.
Because they should, because there is resentment against Palestinians among broad segments of the population. When the prime minister say, "I'm so happy to welcome the Gazans to Norway," people feel, this irritates them because there is such a one-dimensional propaganda. So I think the point you make that if you really care about Palestinians, and this is why I think more Arabs are going to vote for Trump than for Kamala Harris.
Most likely.
There was a new poll, at least Arizona and Nevada. Can you believe it? Because he cares about Arabs.
Exactly.
First thing he did was to visit Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And introduce the Abraham Accords.
Yes.
So he cares more about the people. But our politicians care about the extremists.
Correct.
This is the poison pill. They tell us, if you want to care about Palestinians, you must care about the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. No, they are two separate things.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I have a very simple outlook in life. I'm not a very complex individual. To me, what I've learned from my simple growing up when being bullied, that the only thing that stopped my bullying as a young boy was when I finally hit back the bully that was bullying me constantly over and over and over. And then I was shocked. It was liberating. Because for the first time as a young boy, I realized they don't have power over me. When I hit that bully square in the face and knocked him on his butt and taught him a lesson, it was the end of the days of being bullied. And I've never been bullied ever since. I had been attempted to be bullied with, but everyone who stood up against me as a bully, I knew, because I knew that first time I can defend myself and I can stop this bullying. It ended every time. It was a new bully. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't this learning curve of let them hit me, let them hurt me, give them their way. I understood if I threw a punch, the bullying stops. These people are bullies. The only thing they understand is force. And if people think that by catering to the bully, and giving them their way, somehow you're gonna get out of the conflict, that's not a solution. That's the perpetuity of being bullied. Now take that on a big scale with terrorists. You're not going to get anything positive out of giving the terrorists what they want. What they need to learn is, you mess with the West, you mess with Israel, we will destroy you, and you will be obliterated. And I think that we made that message very clear with our beeper attack on these terrorists. We put the fear of God in them. And I think that is how bullies need to be treated. You need to put the fear of God in them. You don't do that, they're going to keep terrorizing, and they're going to keep getting what they want. And what they want is a bottomless pit. There's no end to what they want. That's a fact.
I keep seeing the face of this soldier who sacrificed his life in freeing in Argamani in the refugee camp.
I know this story very intimately, actually.
Yeah.
His team members are good friends of mine.
Yeah.
And it's about as far as I can talk about the relation, but I can tell you from firsthand, this man was a real true hero in every sense of the word. His sacrifice and all the men that went into that rescue mission, which unfortunately was painted here as a tragedy for the Palestinians, it is actually the most heroic rescue mission in the history of rescue missions, period. Not SAS, not Delta. No one has committed such a heroic and successful rescue mission against all odds. What people don't understand is that these men went into the heart of the enemy, surrounded by over 1,000 armed terrorists, who all converged on the hostage rescue operators who are trying to get the hostages out of the heart of this hornet's nest. And just like you see in Black Hawk Down, as a film reference for people out there to get a little bit of a context, when you see the Black Hawk go down and all of these bad guys coming and converging like a swarm to try to get to those U.S. soldiers, that is what it was for these men. Except that the difference is it's not war fighters, these are hostages. And we cannot accept that they get killed or wounded in this rescue. We have to get them out. That's our mission. And they pulled off the impossible. Over 1,000 armed gunmen, over 250 of these terrorists were killed. And the hostage, every one of them were brought back alive. That was a miraculous mission, and it cost the life of one of the team leaders from the Yamam unit, and they are the spearhead unit of all of the hostage rescue missions that have been done since the beginning of the war. And they're definitely a lot to be learned from these people, because they're really Class A operators on par with anybody in the world. And I know these people firsthand, a lot of them, and I can tell you these people are amazing, is all I can say.
So the fighting spirit in IDF is still high. I mean, your resilience have not been broken. You have the strength to see this through.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. Because like I told you in the beginning, is we have no other option. There is no plan B here. There is no someone else. You're it. You're at the front line. You're at the plate, so to speak, for using American sport terminology. We're up to bat, and we don't have someone else to take your place. This is it. You don't make it, we all lose. The whole Jewish people lose. That's what's at stake here.
Doron, thank you for a very interesting conversation. I hope you come back.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Det var det for i kveld.